early pioneer of alpine climbing, in 1902, Alistair Crowley joined an expedition to climb K2 in Pakistan, where he quarrelled with his mentor and expedition leader Oscar Eckenstein over whether he should be allowed to bring his multi-volume occult library with him up the glacier. Later, in a brief moment of sanity, he identified a feature now known as K2's standard route and its best line of approach. Unfortunately, the expedition descended into farce when Crowley threatened a teammate with a revolver and was kneed in the groin in retaliation. Crowley had met Eckenstein in the Lake District in the 1890s, but they spent more time in North Wales, meeting friends including George Mallory and forming the Penny Pass group. Crowley and Eckenstein made quite the pair. The former redesigned the crampon so that it resembled what is worn by climbers today. In doing so, he introduced a bold new style of ice climbing. He also promoted a short ice axe that could be used with one hand, and in this he proved to be 60 years ahead of his time. Eckenstein was always shabbily dressed. He stated that a mountaineer should be a vagabond. Crowley later said of his friend and mentor, for him, climbing was a personal, private, almost mystical experience, more a matter of communion than community. This ethos was not lost on his acolyte. Returning to the Himalayas in 1905, Crowley led an expedition to climb Kanachunga, but his reputation as a mountaineer suffered irreparable damage. After 4 of his companions were killed in an avalanche whilst descending a slope he had cautioned them to avoid. Instead of descending to help, Crowley rolled over in his tent and went back to sleep. The following day he descended past the bodies without bothering to look at them. A mountain accident of this sort I have no sympathy for whatsoever, he wrote. Unfortunately, his mountaineering career was then in tatters. So Crowley had the consolation of occult wizardry to return to. And he helped to finance George Mallory's early expeditions to Mount Everest. Mallory was fascinated with the occult. Along with Crowley, he saw the mastery of the Earth's highest peaks as a triumph over mortality. He climbed to go beyond imagination and saw his conquests as a talisman of power. While at Cambridge, Mallory had formed a group later named the Neo-Pagans by Virginia Woolf. This circle included the poet Rupert Brooke, who confessed he felt dull in Mallory's company. Later describing him as 6 foot high, with the body of an athlete, a face with the mystery of Botticelli, the refinement and delicacy of a Chinese print, and the youth and piquancy of an unimaginable English boy. Mallory's muscular beauty attracted both men and women. A future star of the Bloomsbury group, but the interesting thing about the group is that they didn't actually know that Mallory climbed. It was simply the case that they just weren't interested. Practicing neo-pagan things like nude sexual rituals, Mallory was asked to leave a teaching post at Charterhouse School after he invited a class to join him naked on the grass outside for a poetry reading. But ultimately, it was on the intellectual and moral high ground where the prizes were won, and Mallory understood that very well.
Let me catch my breath. Let me keep my head. Let me keep my heart with every step. May the world come to where we stood. May there be no doubts in the history books. We
the end of a grueling lecture tour of the USA in 1923, George Mallory attends the final press conference where he is asked the obligatory question, why climb Everest? Because it's there, he deadpans. Mount Everest has been there for 60 million years. At over 29,000 feet, it is the roof of the world, where it rules the skyline. Also there, on the 1924 expedition, was the Herculean engineer Andrew Sandy Irvine, just 22 years old, physically invincible, but a complete novice. If this cold, treacherous mountain held any fear for Mallory, Irvine was oblivious. As the finest climber in Britain at 37, George Mallory had fought in the Somme. This experience had served him well. Surviving the war, he felt life presented itself very much as a gift. But he was a man almost too much in love with life, and torn between his two great passions, his wife Ruth and his quest for adventure.
I feel so mixed up when I think of it, not wanting safety for my own sake, 'cause I prefer adventure, and I want to share the risks with my friends. But it's different when Ruth comes in, she'll be so lonely when I'm up there. Oh my darling, what a thrill it is, I can't tell you how it possesses me, and what a prospect it is, the wonder and the beauty of it all, especially when it reminds me of you, my wildest dream, my wildest dream.
George Mallory was born in Moberly, Cheshire. It's known today as Mallory's Village, in much the same way as Everest became known to many as Mallory's Mountain. But what of his partner, Sandy Irvine? Like Mallory, he was a breed apart. The question of whether he will ever be found remains unknown, but with him may lie many of the answers to their fateful mission. Andrew Irvine was born in Birkenhead on the 8th of April 1902. Sandy, as he became known due to his shock of golden hair, was one of 5 brothers and a sister, Evelyn. Sandy and Evelyn were inseparable as children. They could often be found playing together in the nearby Birkenhead Park. Sandy taught Evelyn to climb trees and make rope swings, and in turn, she tried to encourage her brother to keep at least 1 foot on the ground. As long as this rope is tied between us, Evelyn, he would say, I will never let you fall. But if I do, she'd reply, won't you come tumbling down after me? Not if you have faith in me, Evelyn. That's the challenge. That's the adventure.
Myself a
Sandy attended the prestigious Birkenhead School, where sadly he failed to shine. This made him insecure, and he often overcompensated for his lack of progress in the classroom. He always had to run the fastest, throw the furthest, and climb the highest. It was later as a boarder at Shrewsbury School that Sandy really thrived, more so at sport, especially in rowing, where he reached the pinnacle of blue standard. The classroom bored him. When the school acquired a World War I German machine gun, Sandy stripped it down by candlelight in his dormitory. He then rebuilt it from scratch, using the components to invent a machine gun synchronized so that it could fire rounds through the fighter plane's spinning propeller without causing damage. During the summer holidays as a young man, Sandy often joined his family for a holiday in Snowdonia. The family would arrive by train, but he preferred to travel there on his beloved motorbike. His parents despaired at his exploits on the machine, but the daredevil in Sandy triumphed over their worst fears in an escapade to ride to the peak of one of the mountains.
If you had brains, then you'd be dangerous. But you wouldn't be such fun if the way it'd been laid out for us, then you just wouldn't want to come. You've gotta have the challenge and the thrill. You're just no good at standing still. If you had brains, you'd be dangerous. But there's no danger you ever will.
At 976 metres, Vreugras is one of the highest and most desolate land masses in Snowdonia. Irvin attempted to ride to the summit on his faithful motorbike, falling off a number of times. It was a futile endeavour, but rather than concede defeat, Irvin carried the motorbike to the top. Although eccentric, it was feats such as this that would later impress the Mount Everest Committee.
Why do you always have to challenge fate? When you know it's a challenge, it's bound to take. And some mountains, they're dangerous. But Sandy, today you'll have your day.
Before Shrewsbury School, life for Sandy had revolved mainly around his own family. But at Shrewsbury, he met boys from different backgrounds and made many new friends. The closest of these was Richard Summers, and it wasn't long before Sandy was invited to spend holidays at the Summers family home in North Wales. These visits held a particular attraction for Sandy in the form of Richard's vivacious stepmother, Marjorie, a former chorus girl. Sandy found Marjorie utterly captivating. She enticed him into the world of theatre. They drove in her husband's Rolls Royce, giggly with champagne, and she taught him the most racy dances of the day. Marjorie also found Sandy irresistible, but her behaviour was seen as outrageous. Then, one morning, Irvin was seen coming out of Marjorie's bedroom. This was overstepping the mark. Fearing a scandal, her husband asked her to leave and initiated divorce proceedings. Irvin and Marjorie still met regularly in London, where she had lodgings, but by now they were being followed by a detective employed by Harry Summers. "Oh, it's a terrible tangled mess, darling," said Marjorie. "Well, if you give them enough rope," replied Sandy. At their final farewell, Sandy's train arrived early. He was in no particular hurry, but he boarded the smoker's carriage, leaving Marjorie tearful on a bench staring at him. Before long, clouds of steam filled the platform and Dark shadows crossed the window, and she watched as Sandy disappeared within them. Somehow she felt it was symbolic of something.
This is my stop. It's where I get off at this station of broken hearts, along with my thoughts and my ticket stub. The train is closing its doors as it's pulling away. There's nothing to say. This departure is for good, 'cause it's my stop. It's where I get off at the station of broken hearts. My head's full of steam and crazy dreams and changing scenery, and the light at the end of this tunnel I see is just the darkness behind me, 'cause it's my stop. This is where I get off. Someone's left a paper for someone else to read, and a wet umbrella on the seat. For once the train was on time, but it's the end of the line for my Marjorie and me, 'cause it's my stop. This is where I get off at this station of ghosts and broken hearts.
When Irvine received an invitation to join the 1924 Everest expedition, he couldn't have arrived at a more opportune time. He had just received the bombshell that Dick Summers had proposed to his sister Evelyn, and he reacted badly on the news of their engagement. Sandy's own personal life was becoming a disaster, involving trysts with wealthy debutantes and accusations of breaches of promise. The offer to join the Everest team provided him with the perfect escape from his turmoil. On the eve of their departure, Sandy confessed to George Mallory that he was leaving behind a bloody awful mess in search of adventure. Mallory assured him, "Adventure is what life means and what life is for." The next morning, sailing from the port of Liverpool en route to the Himalayas, Irvine felt that he really had nothing to lose.
Goddess of the sky, did you make your own angels fly to the clouds that surround your summit crown? The sun and the moon, they shine, and they bow to you as they climb their way to heaven. Goddess of the sky, goddess of the sky, did you make your own angels fly to the clouds
Mount Everest is a holy mountain, considered sacred by Tibet to the north and Nepal to the south. To both she is known as the goddess of the sky. Across her face the winds blow at 200 miles an hour. Temperatures can climb as high as 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the day and plummet to 60 below at night. In these conditions, climbers can suffer both sunstroke and frostbite in the same day. Near the summit, there is 66% less oxygen. This mountain will literally take your breath away.
As old men talk of scarce remembered youth, of beauty's distant mysteries faded, with piquancy that's half imagined, where nothing mars or seems uncouth, and only finest art can shape the truth, conjuring boys to life, no joys withheld. Cover with the sky the stars embrace, snow-tipped sacred mother Sangamata, manbreaker, fate shaker, life breath-taker. Dream as shadows light across your face, and wake to deeds that leave immortal trace, per ardua ad astra. When still cubs as snow lions romped and chased among the icy peaks and crevices and caves, one played among the ships that chanced the waves, the other through the fields and laneways raced. In sports and games both loss and winning tasted, so country sets the path that glory paves. Meek like the tiger set to bound and spring, they lived to test their skills and make their way, where mountains beckoned for prey and play, to take up the chase where the wind horns sing, and matching peril set aside death's sting, with peaks made quarry o'er the hunting day. Inscrutable the dragon, wise and sly, shingle-clad, snow-dusted, cold and sleeping, shakes its rocky scales, with scree shards reaping, waking, uncoiling, snarling at the sky, recoiling back from those whose footsteps try to wrest away the secret she is keeping. Fierce and outrageous, like the phoenix, beyond courageous, life must burn, vanquish none but ourselves in what they yearn, as ambition stokes its desperate tricks, so ever upward embers seal their tracks. There is no way back when none can turn. In fellowship and practice skills set sound by heaven's stars, it seemed an easy leap, to cleft within the steps and pipes so steep, where fathom line could never touch the ground, and brace up arms against the slips that downed, to pluck bright honour from the pale-faced moon. Set to test and try to life's cliff edge, strong to the harm in heedless danger sped, chancing all but fellowship linked tread, picks and crampons, hammer and wedge, risk-taking all at scarp and ice and ledge, 2 men to glory, born through mortal bread. There they stood, ranged across the sheer sides, set my lasting view of them a living frame. For one more picture into clouds of fame, I saw them move, and lost them then. And yet, dauntless to task and way beyond regret, 2 climbers to the towering summit came.
We set up camp that night inside of the summit, a handshake and a blessing, eager to challenge fate. Now that we're here on the face of Everest, where metal is put to the test,
light fades quickly on their tiny camp as Mallory and Irvin's breath freezes. Despite the cramped conditions, Sandy has set up a makeshift workspace, just like he did in school. Only here, the ice and snow intrude into everything, whipping at his hands as he checks the apparatus. "Well, Sandy, is everything ready for tomorrow?" asks George Mallory, as much to reassure himself as anything, it seems. "Ready as it'll ever be," Irvin replies. The conditions on Everest have weathered his face to, as he himself describes, perfect agony. The seeping open blisters and heavy beard make him appear much older than his years. He's suffering from flu and dysentery, for which he's taking laudanum, a powerful opiate that's causing him to hallucinate. Irvin drifts in and out of lucidity. Before his eyes, the snow turns red with blood. Scattered around are the butchered remains of a pack of dogs. They belonged to Captain Scott. 2 ghosts from the explorer's crew now appear, lost souls with starving faces. Burning up with delirium, Irvin takes more of the narcotic. The snow now melts and becomes the ocean. Rocks become iceberg. Everest's summit evokes the shape of the phantom black hull of the Titanic, her huge propellers stark in the moonlight. And around him, in the water, echo the screams of the drowning. Scott himself now appears with pitiful, haunted eyes. He points a frostbitten finger at his fallen crewman and then into Irvin's terrified face. "Wilson, Bowers," whispers Scott. "Save them."
And the team's great experiment, but I'm also its greatest risk. Youth is my only impediment for a challenge like this. It's cold and I've known, so hard to swallow the words of Apollo in the ice and snow. Blizzards have kept us at camp for days. Mallory is living on his nerves. He's so desperate to reach the summit step, and for whatever awaits us there. For it's cold and I've known, so hard to swallow the words of Apollo in the ice and snow. I dreamt I saw the ghost of Captain Scott. I heard the crying, the wailing of the dogs. I heard the icebergs rip the Titanic's sides, and the screams of the lost. It's colder than I've known, so hard to swallow words of Apollo and the ice and snow. The ice and snow.
Mallory shakes Irvin out of his stupor. He knows he's pushed his friend beyond his limits. His youth is against him, and hard things seem to hit him harder. "Do you have a mind to continue?" he pleads. "Let's have a whack at it tomorrow, hey, George?" Sandy reassures him, as best as he can muster.
Will take me with you when first light comes, when the mountain glistens in the morning sun. I won't leave anything to chance. Everything is safe in my hands. Just take me with you.
morning, in the grip of a fitful dream, Mallory cries out, "I shan't come back! I shan't come back!" Startled, Irving wakes him. "Mallory, are you all right?" "George, it's morning." I'm all right," Mallory whispers, his throat raw, worried with responsibility. What time is it?" "It's time," replies Irving. Under the blue sky, everything's looking good for the attempt. They set out in near perfect conditions. Underfoot is hard pack ice, and they must cut steps into the rocks that are steepening around them. And it's time to tie the rope, which will act as a lifeline between them, and if it does not save them, will hang them. The day of the ascent had been meticulously planned by George Mallory. He chose Ascension Day, a holy day that symbolises Christ's rise into heaven. And it takes 40 days and 40 nights for the body to adjust to the altitude on Everest.
Let me catch my breath. Let me keep my head. Let me keep my heart. With every step, one day the world will look up to where we stood. Will there be no doubts in the history books? We made our way on Ascension Day, you and me, the hard way.
As they climb, the first mists are drifting across the north face as black clouds begin to rise from the glacier far below. The storm then blows across the west face with a ferocity that Mallory had never experienced before. Within seconds, thicker, dense swathes of ice and snow close in. Huge monsoon clouds encircle the peak. Feeling the advancing gusts, Irving staggers, snowblind, trying to keep up with Mallory, but forever pushed back by the force of the wind. Team member Noel Odell last caught sight of the pair just 300 metres from the top. As they disappeared into the clouds, they resembled tiny black insects on the back of a great white whale.
There's only one truth I've ever known. When I hear the mountain call, I'm behind you, I'm at your side. Am I a fool or a hero? Time will decide, but I'd climb for you. I'd lay my whole life down. I'd die if you asked me to. At the end of the line.
The summit pyramid now looms over them. So close, the decision to retreat is unthinkable. Irving is desperately trying to follow Mallory's every step. Then, helplessly, Sandy is wrenched forwards, collapsing face down in the snow. The violent shift drags Irving downwards 20 feet. With arms frantically flailing, he manages to gain a hold in the rocks and bring himself to a stop. Disoriented, he slowly comes to his senses, just as the rope again cuts deep into his flesh. A split second later, the tension on the line breaks, and he is left motionless, alone. Mallory has fallen. All his life he sought after whatever things are pure and high and eternal. At last, in the flower of his perfect manhood, he was lost to human sight between earth and heaven on the topmost peak of Everest.
I will climb with you, lay my whole life down, and I die up there with you at the end of the line.
At home in England, Ruth Mallory is sleeping with her children at her side. Tomorrow she will break the news to them and they will cry together. And when the press come calling with their glassy-eyed benevolence, Ruth will allay any hint of hubris in the tragedy. It doesn't matter if George got to the top or not, she says. It was his life that I loved and still love.
A disturbance closed in as the ice was growing thin. A tightrope of snow finally broke. Can almost touch the summit with my hand, but it's all I can do now just to stand. Jaws of the wind closing tight as the sun melts into the night. Scared to take the next step, scared to take the next breath alone on Everest.
Now alone, Irving is reeling from Mallory's fall. Frantically, he gathers up the bodiless end of the rope, confirming his worst fears. With no experience to draw from, Irving desperately tries to negotiate a way down the ledge. He becomes confused, floundering and stumbling in the darkness. Losing his footing, he falls hard, coming to grief on a sheer edge. Shivering, wet and exhausted, he tries to shuffle backwards, but slips further into the mouth of a gully. His shivering has stopped, making him even colder as his limbs stiffen. His final thoughts are of his sister, Evelyn, covering him in a blanket. The mountain's crevasses appear to turn into the branches of a tall tree, and through its canopy he sees Evelyn. She is smiling. Finally, in a deep sleepiness, his body surrenders, and he is embraced by the frozen arms of death.
Evelyn, don't look down. If you're frightened, hold me tightly. We'll soon be on the ground. Evelyn, don't look down. When you're climbing, you can end up crying.
Where wonders, wars, misfortunes, and stirring deeds are seen, where peace and wild confusion have come and gone again, I could rhyme of Robin Hood or Randolph, Earl of Chester, England's ancient blood, its shield and its protector. But greater strife the country bore, wide-wasting land and kin, and lads had died in mud and gore that hid the kind old sun. Now nature generation shows, and young men take their place, and noble is as noble does, as scions pick up the pace. Like Gawain and Bayard, noble knights of old, modesty their standard for quests and ventures bold. Called then the far dominions with bitter frosty skies, the demons' dark pavilions, where devils hiss their lies. And though their mothers scheme and urge them not to go, they smile and explain the answer must be no. Before they reached that shore, what promises they made, and how high country's store was stocked with glory's tread. Now huntsmen take their places, and all the hounds run free, as blood's up honour paces, swift to crag and shifting scree. Those lads, their eyes grown bright, would soar, surmount the way, climbing on with great delight as sets the end of day. Bold Mallory, unflinching, drew his pick and staked his claim. His mind's eye upward flew, the summit set to be his aim. Then Irvine said, with cheerful face, "Why shrink back from the quest? Though fate bring glory or disgrace, a man must meet the test. Life can only little mean with loss so much in mind. All faults they may redeem through fellowship in kind. Spin the prayer wheel letters, tell of ancient noble truths. Their story flagged in penance, the mountain people choose."
One cannot say if Sandy Irvine fully understood the risks of the Everest expedition. He was the youngest by 15 years and the last member to be chosen. A choice part justified by his good humour, his keenness, and ready cheerfulness. It is certain that Irvine's family didn't fully appreciate what Sandy was getting himself into. They were completely broken by the tragedy, especially Evelyn. After his death, a garland that Sandy had picked for her during the climb was forwarded to her by his Sherpa. It consisted of blue alpine violets. His father, William, always maintained that his son had reached the summit before he died. Equally firmly, Evelyn was convinced he did not. If he had, she said, he would have come back to me.
We made our way on Ascension Day, you and me, the hard way.
In 1960, a climber with a Chinese expedition on Everest said that he had discovered the body of an ancient English dead, which he believed to be Irvine's. It was found just below a ledge where an ice pick lay. It was impossible to tell if the pick had been placed or dropped, but it bore the triple nick mark unique to Irvine. The party treated the remains with the utmost respect and did not disturb the fallen dreamer who lay frozen in his quest. But later, at camp, they inscribed a prayer for the man who had led them this far to their own dream. Everest finally offered up the body of George Mallory in 1999, and from the front pages of the world's newspapers, his long dead bones glowed as if made of marble. His fingers were still clenched, grasping at the snow defiantly, clinging on to his destiny.
Let us leave him to his shroud of snow, his funeral lamps, the planet Seven. For a great sign the icy stairs shall go, between the stars to heaven. Let us leave him, let us leave him to his wildest dream. Only human as humans can be. He saw no obstacles, only possibilities. could not make the final descent. In the end, let us leave him, let us leave him to his wildest dream, his wildest dream, his wildest dream.
In the May of each year, the prevailing jet stream in the Everest region moves north, allowing for calmer conditions. This brief season is known as the summit window. Over 250 souls have passed through this window and perished. Driven by their courage or misguided ambition, they climbed through the gates of fate and followed in the doomed, icy footsteps of those two valiant men of Cheshire who among the snows adventured their lives even unto death. Almost all remain on the mountain.
Around November 30th, 1924, a little-known communication purportedly coming from Mallory several months after his death, in which he said he did not reach the summit, came through the mediumship of Geraldine Cummins, probably the most celebrated automatic writing medium ever, and was communicated to Beatrice Gibbs, Cummins' friend. As Gibbs was a member of the Royal Geographic Society and feared she would be banned from that organisation if it were known that she dabbled in the occult, the communication with Mallory was never made public. It was left to Charles Fryer, an Anglican priest and college lecturer in history, to uncover the transcript, first published in 1990.
I want to talk. I am clearer tonight. You called me before and I was puzzled. I am Mallory. I am wondering if my people are known to you. I don't think they would believe I was alive. I am getting away now from the darkness I slipped into after that suffocating time. I can remember still the struggle for breath and how the hammer seemed to go on beating in my head. Knock, knock, and I wouldn't give in. I had got so far, and after the awful cold, I wonder, has anyone succeeded? Or will anyone? I'd like to warn chaps not to try. It can't be done. I couldn't stir, just lay there waiting, such a dreary time. All mixed up in my head, seeing figures and shapes. Then that passed mercifully, and I only felt weak and light, my body numb. I remember my despair. Oh, if I got to the summit and died, I wouldn't mind. But I am just so like many others. I think I was delirious at the end. Everything danced about me and I had curious dreams. It was all a muddle, you see, at first. I took a long time getting clear of my body. It didn't decompose rapidly in that great cold. I found myself outside it, watching the man that was myself, and yet not myself, tied to him still by threads. It took a long time to snap. Perhaps because I was a pretty strong chap and died hard. You know, I believe people don't die when doctors pronounce them dead. They are still very often only just outside their bodies, as I was. But a segment of me had gone forward. I mean, I have been in a place of many colours. I have been conscious of my shape. It is not as difficult as you might imagine, but it is flexible. I have been learning how to control it. But these periods when I am not resting come to me as dreams come and pass rapidly. But I've learned to adjust my focus and reach those conditions of mind when I can again make the earth seem real and I can, in your life, even become associated with it again. It's awfully comforting. It's rather like telephoning. One never knows quite how much you get at the other end. You know, I'm awfully glad I can get on to you. Things have cleared up for me since so much. I've got free of what was keeping me in that confused darkness. I have tried to put through to you any fragment of memory I could. My memory has been all in pieces since I died. The queer thing is that though I have moments when I remember most things in my life, there are others when my memory shuts off like a moving picture and I am in a blank. I think I shall understand myself better soon. I am helped, of course, by others who have shown me how to see without eyes and hear without ears.